live from Capitol Hill, Friday, the 14th of February, year of our Lord 2020. It is St. Valentine's Day. And the media's trying to have a St. Valentine's Day massacre, aren't they? On President Trump. They're in full meltdown. We're going to get to all that. Live from Capitol Hill, Episode 6, War Room 2020, your 1 hour a day that you can spend on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Salem, broadcasting throughout the nation. America's Voice.news, streaming. And, of course, 96.7 in Chicago and 103.9 in the Chicago suburb, Schaumburg. I want to thank everybody in the Chicago area for listening live from your nation's capital, Washington, D.C. We're going to be joined momentarily by Mayor Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor, and the Elliot Ness of his generation. I'm very honored today to be the very first, in his podcast, Common Sense, with Rudy Giuliani, which is amazing. I actually get the honor of being the first interviewee today on the podcast. Mayor, thank you very much for joining us here in War Room.
Well, it's very good to join you, Steve. It was a great interview, by the way.
Well, thank you, sir.
Terrific. As usual.
Well, no, it was because of the great questions in repartee. When is that going to? Have you already put it up?
Yeah, it'll be out today. I think around noon.
Okay, perfect. We will push that out because we get into a lot of topics. I know Jason wants to jump in here, but the first thing before we get,
I mean, with you, the decision was I could have talked to you all about 2016, but and then all about 2020, and there's so much to talk about.
Well, look, we want to get in particular your amazing interview last night with Trish Reagan, which the mainstream media is still in full meltdown about. But when we get down this, the one thing, you're the one guy, as we say in your podcast today, you probably know the two combatants here, Donald Trump and Michael Bloomberg. But we wouldn't have the Michael Bloomberg problem if it was not for Rudy Giuliani. It was Rudy Giuliani's endorsement of Bloomberg and not that I'm going to tell that to Trump, by the way, right?
I was blamed for Comey, too. I hired him.
Just saying.
I hired Comey and I got Bloomberg elected. Oh, God.
Talk to us about Michael Bloomberg. The nation's just getting to know this guy. Yeah, the nation's just getting to know this guy. Tell us what is important that people should know about Michael Bloomberg.
Well, first, I begin with the fact that he's a friend. I don't have harsh feelings toward him at all. I thought, on balance, he was a good mayor. I never once criticized him on purpose. I largely don't like presidents who criticize former presidents, and you only should do it if you really have to. Of course, the last 2 years, all I've been doing is criticizing the mayor. But, this guy is terrible. You can't compare any other mayor to de Blasio. Bloomberg carried on the criminal justice reforms that I began. Not only that, he and Ray Kelly improved on it in some ways. In the area of social engineering is probably where I disagree with Mike the most.
But hold on, let's go to what we talked about in the podcast, where I think is key. What about stop and frisk? He's now Michael Bloomberg's blaming. He's blaming Rudy Giuliani and Bratton and Carrick. It's all your fault, Rudy. You're the racist. You're the guys that did this.
Mike, you want to share in the credit for the crime decline? I don't know. He would always talk before about what a great mayor I was, what a terrific mayor I was, what a great job I did in reducing crime, and how he was lucky to inherit the city the way it was, and that the crime decline was started by me, and he just continued it. And then I would always describe it as the Giuliani-Bloomberg crime decline, because he, particularly Ray Kelly, who after all was the law enforcement professional, they took CompStat and proved it. Here's the one thing they did with let's call it stop, question, and frisk, because people should understand it. I don't believe they kept a discipline about it. So I'll give you an example. The Justice Department under Clinton was going to sue us, the city, for violating civil rights by stop, question, and frisk. In fact, the Eastern District of New York had recommended bringing a civil rights act.
Hey, Mayor, hang over a second. You say stop, question, and frisk. Bloomberg's on audio saying, "Hey, throw him up against the wall." What do you mean stop, question, and frisk? When is the NYPD cop question?
Here was the idea of it. Bratton and I developed it. I don't think Bratton is embarrassed about it. I think he's proud of it. Basically, you got to take the guns out of the hands of the bad guys. That's how you reduce crime. Chicago doesn't do it. We do it. You go up to a person where you have reasonable suspicion. This is all Supreme Court, Terry versus the United States. Reasonable suspicion that they may be carrying a gun or committing another crime, possibly have drugs, possibly jewelry stolen. So if there's a reasonable suspicion that they are that they're committing a crime, not even probable cause, you can stop them and you can ask them a question. Tell me your identity. Based on that response, to some extent, you can develop more reasonable suspicion or lose it, right? The guy says, I'm Dr. Sam Jones, or I live in the house next door, or would you like me to show you my identification? He offers it. You may lose the suspicion, right? If the suspicion continues, you then can do a frisk of him to make certain he doesn't have a weapon.
How many guys under you and Carrick, you and Bratton? How many guys did you stop
per year?
Yeah.
The biggest one was 100,000.
Okay, how many of those people? Okay, I'm gonna get you focused here. How many of those people had a weapon or had a knife or had something like that? Oh, the 100,000. 50?
40%.
40%.
50%. I say about 35% had a weapon. Add another 15% or so for other.
Okay, so 50%, which is amazing. Under Michael Bloomberg, at the top of the game under Bloomberg and Ray Kelly, how many people did they stop?
Well, they probably started pretty close, like 30. But in the last 2-3 years, it went down to like 10%.
No. How many did they stop? You stopped 100,000. How many did they stop?
600,000.
Okay, so this is the point. You were 100,000 at a 50% rate. He was 600,000 at a 10% rate. That means the absolute number is about the same. It was about 50,000 people, right? I'm just doing some simple math. Why did he?
You're right. I have to go back and look at the exact stats, but that's pretty close, Steve. Yeah.
Okay, so why did he? This is the question. Why did Michael Bloomberg and Ray Kelly? Ray Kelly's a great cop. Why did they take your program that had a high yield of 50% of people actually had a weapon or were doing nefarious activities? Why did he increase it to 600,000? And increasing it to 600,000, did that drive, whereas Holder and Clinton in the Justice Department wouldn't go after you, did that make it more of a racist thing by going after 600,000 stops?
Well, I don't think it was ever racist. I don't think Mike or Kelly have a racist bone in their body. But I do think it made a bad case. As a lawyer, look, when the case was going on, I never criticized it and I supported it. But as a lawyer, privately, I said to myself, it's a little bit of they're pushing it way too far. I mean, part of it is, and Mike has a tape out that finally gives me an answer to maybe why they were doing it. Mike says, if you know you're going to be frisked when you come downstairs, you're not going to bring the gun. Well, obviously, the more people you frisk, whether you get it or not, you create that sense of fear, right? Now, that's essentially what the court found they did, that they weren't really strictly sticking to reasonable suspicion, probable cause at those numbers. You couldn't possibly have that much reasonable suspicion. I'm not sure the court was right, but at least it gave the corporation counsel, who would have given me as a lawyer a much tougher job winning the case. They overdid it.
So, Mr. Mayor, I want to jump in here on this point about them overdoing it because, look, when we talk about the Giuliani legacy, we're talking about broken windows theory, where you nip these small problems in the bud before they become bigger problems, and ComStat, where you use metrics way before computers, way before all this targeting to really figure out
Moneyball for crime.
Yes, how to deploy resources, and this was revolutionary.
Yeah, it all was statistically based, and on that part, Bloomberg was okay because he was a businessman.
But now Bloomberg is getting a criticism on the race part, and the Aspen Institute tape didn't help. I mean, as we saw in the New York Times yesterday, one of the columnists wrote, Bloomberg didn't see individual criminals, many of whom happen to be minorities. He saw a class of criminals who are minorities. And Mayor, this is where I want to jump in here because in all the time I've ever had conversation with you on policing, it's always been on metrics and statistics. With Bloomberg, there's a racial element to it that he's getting a lot of criticism for. Why is that?
Well, because he let the numbers get out of control, Steve. Here was the best argument that I had that got the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General to overrule the Eastern District. I said, the reason that 70% of the frisks, if it was 70%, 60% of the frisks, whatever they were of African American men, is only because of CompStat. 60 to 70% of the time, the complaint is against an African American male.
Mayor Giuliani, we've got to go to commercial break. Can we ask you? I know you're pressed for time. Can we ask you to stay over for the next segment?
Yeah, it's an important point. People don't understand, but you understand it. It's really good.
Perfect. We're going to take a short commercial break. Return on War Room, Rudy Giuliani, in a second.
War Room 2020. Bannon, Miller, Kassan.
Live from Capitol Hill and throughout the known universe. It's War Room 2020, Episode 6. Our guest is the Elliot Ness of his generation, the America Mayor, the real America's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani.
Mr. Mayor, I want to go right back to that point that you were saying at the end there, because this, I think you really broke some big news here as far as the way that people are understanding Michael Bloomberg and all the policing and the racial profiling and what's going on here. So under you, there were 100,000 annual stop and frisks. Stops, and with about a 50% yield. But under Bloomberg, that went up to 600,000 with only about a 10% yield. How is that anything other than racial profiling?
Well, that's what the court concluded. You could say it wasn't intended that way. It just became that way. And that, in fact, he was policing in the most dangerous areas of the city. Therefore, he had the most police there. So they were going to end up making the most stops. The way I defended it was we were basically precisely the number of the complainants that we got. 70% of the complaints were against African American males. About 60% of the stops were African American.
Yeah, but hold on, Mayor. If you look, Ray Kelly's a great cop, but if you and Bratton were there, and all of a sudden you're taking it up to you're taking it up to 200,000, you're taking it up to 300,000, and the percentage is dropping. You would say, hey, we're being very inefficient. We're shaking down a lot of guys that we got to rethink this. You wouldn't just, nobody would have walked it up to 600,000. That's the question. Why did it go from something that was fairly controlled, fairly tight? And the point, another point, Eric Holder, who's probably the most aggressive head of the Civil Rights Division in the history of the Justice Department, was Clinton's guy. He came in and he didn't even sue you guys because he went through your program and realized you guys were high and tight, right? Later, they now he got sued. They lost.
Well, I think this may be the problem that they didn't think about it as lawyers. Immediately, you would realize when the numbers get out of whack, they're going to have the argument, the demonstrative argument that you are focusing on black people if it gets out of control. I don't know why they let it get that far.
Okay, but hang on, Mayor. Michael Bloomberg built his business on connecting the world's capital markets with data. If Michael Bloomberg knows, and he's fired at 39 years old, he's now worth $71 billion. If Michael Bloomberg knows anything on earth, he knows data. How could he possibly sit here? You don't need to be a lawyer. You have to know how to count. How could he sit here and see the thing goes from 100,000 to 600,000 and not say, hey, are we doing this correctly? Why are we shaking down over 500,000 people in the city and only getting 10% that have it?
I'll tell you why. Because they are so focused on statistics. All he did was see the murder rate come down. And the murder rate, I left it at about 500. He and Ray got it down to 300. Very hard to do that. It's much easier to reduce it from, let's say, 2,000 to 1,500 than 300 down to 300. He needed that. He saw it was working. It did work to reduce crime. It saved lives. It may have been unconstitutional, but it saved lives. And I don't think he focused on it. He looked at the fact that the more I do it, the more crime goes down. He didn't think about the constitutional aspect of it.
So I think that's fascinating.
That's my only explanation.
And I think, Mr. Mayor, I want to take this point and go into, now, you're looking at this now as a Trump ally, as a Trump supporter. Michael Bloomberg already, what is he, 381 million in? Finally, the media is starting to pay a little bit of attention here. Knowing that essentially Bloomberg, he rents his ideology, he rents his partisan affiliation. Where do you see Trump allies and the president needing to go right now to stop Bloomberg before he spends another $2, $3, $4 billion here?
I think the Democrats are going to do it. First of all, I think it really is unseemly that somebody is going to buy the presidency when he has no connection, really, no roots to that political party. He's been in all three. He's been an independent. He's been a Republican. He's been a Democrat twice. Number one. Number two, there's no real firm ideology there. He's a utilitarian, but he also is very, very much a supporter of the big state. I mean, he went really far with the nanny state issues, not just guns, but sodas. I mean, I'm a cigar smoker, so I can't smoke a cigar in Central Park, but you can smoke marijuana. And that's a little ridiculous, right?
But, Mayor, to this point, recent polling shows that Democrats by 2-to-1 clip just want someone who can beat Trump. They're so tripping on the orange man bad. Right, that they're so hyper fixated on that, they're willing to put aside some of their ideological beliefs. Do you think that any of these guys, whether it be Joe Biden or Amy Klobuchar or Liz Warren or Mayor Pete, are going to be able to muster enough to throw a punch to even get some attention, or Bernie Sanders, to the ideology? Or are they just going to go and sacrifice it all because he has a bunch of money?
Well, it could happen. It could happen that way, but you also then going to have the effect of what are the Bernie people going to do when they get cheated again? They were angry last time. We got some of their vote last time, but a lot of them stayed home last time. I think that's going to double. I mean, you get cheated twice. Second, I think Mike is not a great campaigner. I mean, I know the two men. He loves to campaign the president, and he's great at it, and he's got a great record. Mike didn't have the record as mayor that he has as president. I just put the two records against each other of achievement. Mike took the reforms that I did, and I never said this, but since he's attacking my president, Mike took the reforms that I did, and he either kept them or sometimes he improved them. But Mike was not a game changer. Mike was not a reformer. He would not have done what I did. He would not have, laid off 12,000 people in order to turn around a system. He wouldn't have forced welfare people to work in order to move 500,000 people off welfare to work. He would not have brought crime down from where it was to 60%, 70%. He was able to, Bratton and I invented all the programs. Maybe the reason we wouldn't have abused the program is we understood it better.
How thin-skinned is he? There's the whole thing about they're going after his height. Is he too thin-skinned to go up against Donald Trump, the siege warfare weapon of coming at you?
Almost everybody, almost no one can go against Donald Trump. I mean, what was it? 17-0 in the Democratic and Republican primary. Some of those things you can't think of the poor guy anymore, except you think about what he said. I would say he's thin-skinned. I mean, maybe he's a pretty disciplined guy, though. So I would say the best. I'd run against him on the record. Look at his record as mayor. Look at my record as president. Look at the reforms I've brought about. What did he do? I mean, he took over a city was in great shape. Okay, he was a good caretaker.
Last thing before we jump, you spent $10 million on your campaign. He had to spend $100 million each time he ran. Did money have a big deal about him actually becoming a political figure?
Of course, particularly the first time. The first time it was September 11 and my endorsement that put him over the top. But the thing that made him gave him the name recognition was all the money that he spent. So the money had a huge impact. The third time he ran, he spent $100 million. He only won by 4%.
I know it. People forget that. People had seen enough of him, had enough of it. Okay, Mayor, we got to jump. How do people get to the podcast? Your podcast is fantastic, even without me.
Podcast by just going to RudyGiulianiCS.com.
Mayor,
RudyGiulianiCS.com.
Thank you, sir. We broke a little news here today. Thank you, sir.
Good. Take care.
We didn't even get time to get to the crazy Trish Reagan interview last night. We'll maybe make a little comment on that when we get back. War Room 2020, we'll have Raheem jump in when we get back. Episode 6.
War Room 2020 with Stephen K. Bannon, Jason Miller, and Raheem Kassam. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Live from the nation's capital and throughout the world, it's episode 6, War Room 2020. Raheem, you've been uncharacteristically quiet
So
today.
at this point, surely it's characteristically. Surely now it's been 3 episodes.
I know what it is. We got to go back to dry January.
Yeah.
You seriously, when dry January, you were on it. You were on fire. You've been like very,
I haven't been drinking that much, to be fair. No, I've been looking, because obviously we had the same thing in London. We call it stop and search. And Sadiq Khan as mayor said it was a racist policy and stopped it. Immediately crime goes up, by the way, and now they reintroduced it. So when you guys were talking...
Is this the cause of all the knifings now?
Yeah, yeah. And when you guys were talking with Mayor Giuliani, it was a very, very fascinating interview, because I don't think people have quite got their heads around this yet. There is a HuffPost article from 2012 that kind of gets into this, but it doesn't lay the blame at anyone's feet. It doesn't actually go and show what you guys just showed, which is that, hey, after Bloomberg took office, this stopped being about statistics and started being about a community. He took it from being an anti-crime policy to being an anti-black policy.
Here's what I think it is, too. I think that it's Holder, Eric Holder, and this ties to also the whole meltdown of the mainstream media today. Eric Holder, right, was one of the most, before he was Attorney General, under Clinton, he was, in the second term, he was known as one of the most aggressive individuals in charge of the Civil Rights Division. He was all over Bratton and Giuliani and Carrick. But you know Comstat better than anybody, Jason. You've run campaigns with guys that had to do it, or had to use it to law and order to bring down crime in cities. The reason was the yields were so high, it showed you it was a highly targeted program on bad guys. When you got, this is when Mayor Giuliani said, when you got a 50% yield, and I think 35% actually had weapons, either had a gun or a knife, right? And the other 15 were out there for felonies or warrants or whatever. The 50% yield is it was the reason that a guy like Eric Holder, in a quite progressive Justice Department like Clinton's second term, off the chain, didn't bring. They told journalists, we don't have a case here. You keep doing it, you monitor it. But Michael Bloomberg, if you was an advisor, and Bloomberg's a smart enough guy, and Raheem, jump in here. When you get to all of a sudden 200,000, and I'm not getting more yield. When you get to 250, I've gone 200,000, no more yield. When I get to 2, I start sitting there and go, there's like an absolute number of bad guys walking around here, somewhere in the 35 to 40 or 50,000. Get to 400,000, get to 500,000, get to 600,000.
And here's the problem in this. I mean, again, we're not talking about some random idiot rolled off the street. This is Mike Bloomberg, Mr. Numbers guy. Comstat is designed to be as efficient and targeted as possible with policing resources. Because keep in mind, when Mayor Giuliani came in, following Dinkins and the years and decades of neglect to New York City, that place was a hole. I remember going there in high school, and literally the first time we go pulling into the city, you got the squeegee guys that are out there. Obviously, that was a small thing that's kind of fit into the broken windows, but there were entire neighborhoods that you just couldn't go in, or you take the train and whoa, it's dangerous past this. But Bloomberg, they would have had to have seen that they weren't getting the yields like
this
they
goes
used
to something to psychology, and I think it's going to be very important in this presidential run. And I want to tell the audience and all the liberal media is going to light us up on this. This is Mayor Giuliani gave us his number. We're going to double check and have the War Room staff check that number about the lawsuit. But eventually, the Civil Rights Division came after him, and they kind of folded. And Ray Kelly's a great cop. I'm not criticizing that. But what did Mayor say? The buried lead is there. Bloomberg was so focused on bringing the number down. He gets obsessed. He's obsessive, right? And I think right now, one of the things he's obsessed about is Donald J. Trump. He's just obsessed about this president, that Donald Trump is, in that snarky comment he made yesterday, I've known you for years, people behind your back laugh at you. I think it's something that, just like he was obsessed with the statistic that he had to bring crime down. That's what Rudy said. He had to bring, quote unquote, crime down. He gets obsessed and loses the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. He loses kind of what's the importance of this, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's another number that Bloomberg is obsessed with as well. That would be 5'4", which apparently is his height, according to President Trump. Very interesting Twitter debate yesterday with Maggie Haberman from the New York Times and Tim O'Brien, who's a Bloomberg senior advisor.
But hold on, Tim O'Brien's not a senior advisor. Look at this guy. This guy's the hater that's on CNN all the time. Isn't this the guy that wrote the book or co-wrote? He wrote one of the biographies of Trump.
Bloomberg's got enough.
This
money
is my point is this is psychological warfare.
I think that's a great point because no one takes Tim O'Brien seriously.
He's
as
not a political
strategist.
consultant on strategy.
No, he's a heckler. He's a heckler. But Maggie tweeted out the height thing is one of the few things that actually bothers the candidate. Tim O'Brien came back, said actually doesn't bother him, and then Maggie replies, I'm going to disagree with you as someone who covered him in the 2001 campaign. Typically, people who are not bothered don't put down the wrong height on their driver's license.
Whoa, Maggie Haberman went there.
That's a 2x4 upside down.
Boom. Okay, we'll be back in a second with episode 6. Raheem, Jason, and Steve.
War Room 2020. Bannon, Miller, Kassan.
Worm 2020, episode 6, live throughout the country. Raheem, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I'm fascinated with the Bloomberg Trump matchup right now. I mean, everybody else, no other Democrat is relevant right now, as far as I'm concerned. Bernie's been left in the dust. You can talk about Nevada all you like, but this is now Bloomberg's race.
Super Tuesday.
The donors even know it. The party donors have come out and said, "Look, Biden needs to step back. He's done." They say, "I feel sorry for the guy."
After his Wall Street, he went up to Wall Street, had 2 huge meetings, and I got to tell you, did not play well. Guy said, "Time to move on."
Well, let's talk about that, Jason, because we focused in on how quickly he bounced out of New Hampshire, went down to South Carolina, did that thing, and they said he's going to be campaigning in South Carolina the whole time, right? He's going to be laser-like focused.
They made it seem like he was going there to campaign. He went there to do a toe touch, and then he was out.
He was out, and he was on the Amtrak yesterday on the Acela.
The Acela.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he was lost. I mean, has anyone checked to see if he had like a tag on him said, if lost, return to campaign headquarters?
Was he in the quiet car?
No, he was in the regular car, but he was going the wrong direction. He was going towards New York, although you just never know with Joe Biden.
Well, he went up there. He went up there for donors. He had 2
raise
big raise money, and I heard it went over not well.
And by the way, why is a presidential candidate taking the train up?
Because he's a populist.
He loves
Man
the
of
train.
people. He took the train every day back and forth from Delaware. He lives on that train. We got the media's in a meltdown now. You've got Bloomberg is their hope, his money, but they're in a meltdown about President Trump, and a lot of this ties back to his Attorney General, the guy we've been talking about, Eric Holder, who was, ran the criminal division, and then was Attorney General under. He and Obama had a special relationship. In fact, President Trump would always say, "Hey, what we need is a guy like an Eric Holder to Obama. I need that type of closeness of outlook and personality."
Right, and what the media is trying to do is set this up that there's some sort of Trump Unchained narrative that's going on. We saw this with the Bill Barr interview, where one of the quotes he gave to ABC's Pierre Thomas was, "The president's tweets make it impossible for me to do my job." Then you have Mitch McConnell weigh in and say, "President Trump, you should listen to Attorney General Barr." Led to President Trump tweeting out this morning, "The president has never asked me to do anything in a criminal case, AG Barr, and then this doesn't mean that I do not have, as president, the legal right to do so."
Hello.
I do, but I have so far chosen not to. So,
Called gasoline on the fire.
Right, that's putting out the fire with gasoline, as we would say here. But look, here's the thing: they're tying all this in. Then they're trying to say that there's a new quid pro quo.
He is
with New York.
He is the chief law enforcement officer
He is.
in the country,
But what
according
media
to
is-
the Constitution.
But the point is that the media,
Just saying.
even with the Hope Hicks and the John McEntee rehires, I should say, with them coming back in, they're trying to paint this picture that since President Trump has not apologized to them, that he is somehow unchained, unchecked. This is abuse of power, and this is the narrative they're trying to establish going into the fall, that he's dangerous. They're realizing that Nadler and Schiff and the rest of the crew couldn't put together solid arguments, so they're trying to paint the clear and present danger picture heading into the fall.
They're going to say he's unchained and Bloomberg's stable, but can Bloomberg go tick for tat on this insult by insult?
I love it. I think it's
You love it because it's great for ratings.
It's brilliantly entertaining, and it actually livens up the race that has been so far a snooze fest, especially coming from the left. We're now going to get a real battle for the presidency, and I think it's not just a financial battle; it's a battle of words.
You think he's trying to show the Democrats, Klobuchar and these guys, Mayor Pete, aren't going to be able to stand up to this guy? I'll take him on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But here's the other thing. And by the way, I don't necessarily agree that the media is going to portray this as a Trump Unchained. I'm pretty sure we have said that as well, right? I think it's a fair assessment to
But
make.
I'm saying those are Jonathan Lemire on this morning's Morning Joe literally used those words.
That's great. He's listening to Warren.
That's what the media is saying, and even some of the stories.
It's his
yesterday-
audition to take Willie out.
right? But even when they're trying to tie in, say, like the Hope Hicks or the John McEntee, no, he's putting people in there that are actually.
Yeah, no. What I said is that the pearl clutchers, many of whom were clutching their pearls, got to get ready. He's now knows his executive powers, and he's going to execute on it. So stand by.
And the rumor going around is we're going to see more of this weekend. More people identified inside the administration who have been problematic, who will be released this weekend, and maybe more people who are loyalists coming in, as the rumor mill goes, right?
Hopefully.
But let's go back to your point about Eric Holder and the media claiming that this pseudo independence of the Justice Department now and all that. Let's listen to what Eric Holder said when he was Obama's Attorney General.
I'm happy. I'm still enjoying what I'm doing. There's still work to be done. I'm still a president's wingman, so I'm there with my boy.
Yeah.
Hello.
Holy mackerel! I remember that too when it came. Holy as he should be. He's the Attorney General of the United States.
What if Bill Barr went up in the interview and said, I'm the president's wingman. I got to be there for my boy.
Right.
I think he should.
Absolutely stunning. Let's go back to Bloomberg and
Yeah.
this thing on height.
Yeah.
Is this thing on height? And he made this bizarre comment yesterday. Where I come from, do you have do we have the audio?
I got
on that?
the
'Cause
audio.
I'm still trying to figure out what this is.
Yeah, let's hear him.
Somebody said, that he's taller than me, calls me Little Mike, and the answer is, Donald, where I come from, we measure your height from your neck up.
I didn't get it.
Democrats loving it though.
I didn't.
What
get
do
it.
they love more? They love that. Isn't it saying that I get a bigger brain than you have? That I'm smarter than you? Is that what it is?
Or a longer face?
That's what he's saying, but let's just cut to the chase here. I mean, Bloomberg, this is why Trump is right to try to flush him out with the public appearances, the debates, and things like that. I mean, he comes across as this Lilliputian. Now, Lilliputian with more money than any of us will ever have. I mean, let's just be clear on that. He could buy and sell all of us, with the snap of his fingers. He's the Thanos in this equation. But he doesn't have a powerful presence. I don't think he has a presidential presence. I mean, what is he, the modern day, Martin Van Buren, the little magician, going back to the history books? I mean, this is why I think Trump is right to flush him out. I'm not a biggest fan of the height attack. Fine, whatever, if you want to hit him a bit.
His counter, though, is not to raise him up as president. He continues to refer to him as Donald. How does that? What's he trying to do there?
He's trying to knock him down a rung. He's trying to remove the stature of being president. This is one of the things that the Democrats and the media always want to do. They want to try to make him look unpresidential. They want to try to essentially the cancel culture of his presidency.
But you think that attack, the my brain is bigger than yours, is clever because it dings the president on something.
Well,
that
I think
the
here's
president
what
cares about.
I think what he's done is he doesn't attack Democrats. Bloomberg does not attack any of the Democrats. He's showing people, I'm going to put all guns right on Trump. Whether it works or not, we're going to see. We got 263 in a wake up. But I will tell you, this is going to be anybody out there in Trump world that's leaning on your shovel, that thinks this is going to be easy, thinks it's going to be layup. President Trump can win and he will win if everybody gets focused, because this is going to be as nasty as it's ever been. Okay, we are in February. It's already, somebody said yesterday, it's like post-convention nasty already. Okay, War Room, Episode 6, War Room 2020. Raheem, Steve, Jason, back in a moment.
War Room 2020. Bannon, Miller, Kassan.
Live from Capitol Hill, we're on 96.7 in Chicago, 103.9 in the Chicago suburbs, and we're going to be looking at the nation on Super Tuesday. This is big game America right that day, and it's going to be spread out all over the nation. And Michael Bloomberg, he's in Tennessee, he's getting packed houses, and he's talking about two things. He's talking about the Green New Deal and climate change and how he's going to change the American economy, and he's also talking about he's going to come and take your weapons, he's going to take your guns.
And he's apologizing for stop and frisk. We were talking during the break about why haven't there been more Super Tuesday polls. As we just saw new polling this morning, actually a Florida shock poll, Bloomberg 27, Biden 26. Then it drops off to Pete and Bernie, tied at 10.5.
He just opened a Sarasota office last night. When you're opening offices in Sarasota, that means you're putting serious coin into Florida.
Right. So here's what's happened. Media has been hyper fixated on Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, and then Super Tuesdays down the road. Bloomberg has said, you know what? I'm going to change the game. I'm going to use my money. It's irrelevant. The media is just waking up in the last 24, 48 hours to start realizing, hey, thought bubble, maybe we need to pay attention. I was heckling Jeff Zeleny from CNN on Twitter this morning. Literally, there's a story out. The Democratic primary he kept at bay is finally upon Michael Bloomberg. And I was like, after $381 million, you're finally writing a, hey, Bloomberg's here to play story? Like, Jeff, wake up.
The op-ed in the New York Times was smart, though. What do you talk about? He's forcing attention. Time and attention are the two things in a presidential campaign. You can't get back time, and you need to generate attention.
Yeah, great column by Charlie Wurtzel. Mike Bloomberg is hacking your attention. Shamelessness and conflict equal attention. Attention equals power. We don't have time to go all the way through it, but definitely worth looking at. I think you're going to see a whole rash of polls, though, post-New Hampshire that are going to start to include Super Tuesday as the media wakes up and realizes we're not doing this normal schedule anymore.
Raheem, are they going to buy it? Remember, Donald Trump's not impeached if Michael Bloomberg's not putting $100 million in cash in the spring and summer of 2018 and back in Nancy Pelosi's play. He understood one of the reasons is tie down Trump, ding him up, and I will come in at some time. That's what I was saying back in 18. That Michael Bloomberg in that capital is coming for you, right? This guy is very focused. He's got a vendetta against Trump. Is or the Democratic Party on Super Tuesday, on the evening of Super Tuesday, we end up with a Democratic socialist who's not part of the party and a moderate mayor, Republican mayor of New York actually controlling the Democratic Party. Where are the Clintons? Where are the Obamas? You Democrats, you guys are a bunch of sad sacks. This is embarrassing.
Yeah, they and remember, the liberal media and the left all attacked the Republicans in 2015. They said, you've sold out your principles to a billionaire. Actually, the base on the right had shifted on the trade issues and immigration and all that, and Trump was there for it. This is Bloomberg coming along and effectively buying off the Democrat Progressive Party, the AOCs, the Bernie Sanders. And I want to quickly read you the tweet from Trump this morning just now. It is happening again to crazy Bernie, just like last time, only far more obvious. They are taking the Democratic nomination away from him, and there's very little he can do.
Bernie, all the Bernie bros, we respect you. We respect you. We respect your cause. I know there's policy differences, but you're always welcome with the deplorables, right? Because they disrespect you. And the lazy mainstream media, for a year and a half, all we've heard is Biden and Warren, Biden and Warren, Biden and Warren. You're lazy, you're dumb, you didn't do your job. Those two people are irrelevant. Here comes Bernie, and here comes particularly Michael Bloomberg. See you Monday.